Oh, hey folks, Dude here, coming to you. Yes, I know it is supremely, absolutely, completely, way over illuminated in here, and I am over flashing the camera big time because I'm running the better camera, not the not so great camera. So I'm running this thing in HD. Hopefully, I can do an HD video, and hopefully, I don't look too terribly. Well, I know I'm over flashed. Okay, I get this. Okay. So anyway, today's point and parcel is going to be talking to you about my previous iteration, which would be the 2008 Honda Pilot, of which I do currently still have a video up on YouTube. It's gotten some views. People seem to either like it, hate it, or what have you. And I would give you a walkthrough in the video. Unfortunately for me, though, Mrs. Dude, being a government employee, currently is still basically waiting for the office to say, yes, it's safe to come back again with all this virus protocol crap. So anyway, she has got the car. Also, conversely, she's got my large Mega Godzilla iPod that I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead and just plug this in. It's like pretty much my entire music collection in this monster iPod that she has currently jacked in the vehicle, because the XM Sirius is giving weird reception. Yes, I know that there's some glitchy stuff with, some cars, and particularly in this new iteration of Honda Pilot. We have a 2016 now. So you had the previous, which looks like this. And now we're looking at the newer one, which looks like this. Alright, so we're back, and essentially you can see that there is the progression from being like your standard boxy Honda going to something more modern looking, rounded. People tend to think, and they stated in like a lot of the video reviews I've seen, they state that it's kind of lost its individuality and it looks pretty much like the rest of the SUVs. Case in point, I can tell you, the before and after driving a first generation to the third generation of Honda Pilot, it is night and day. Previous iteration, it really felt more truck-like. It truly felt more old school, driving an old McPherson style construction, front end suspension. The newer one, everything is very, very light controls. Like the power steering, it reminds me back when I started driving back in like the 80s and all the cars had like massively overboosted power steering. That was a problem because you really had no road feel. Essentially what you had is you had the steering wheel feeling like pretty much like a video game where you could just take the wheel and just kind of go wing, and it would just, spin from lock to lock with almost zero effort because the hydraulic pressure was so high in the system that it gave really no feedback on the steering. My first couple Hondas, I think I had an 81 Accord, I had an 85 Accord, and both those cars massively, massively overboosted power steering. I mean, it was pretty much just like playing a video game in terms of steering wheel feel. It really, truly was just like light, flippy, kind of not great, just basically very, very easy controls. The 16, and I'm just going to say 16 from here on in, the 16 Pilot has about 9/10 of that same feel. The steering is very, very light. You could take that thing and you could basically just wing, from one side to the other very, very quick, to the point where you really, truly need to do the 3 and 9 steering style with your arms probably braced on the armrests so you don't overcorrect, undercorrect in your following line of travel. There is a very, very curvy street in Baltimore, and I took that thing late at night, no cops, obviously. I mean, it's a 2-lane blacktop, very curvy, takes you through the park, and you got to watch out. There's a lot of deer in that area, too. And I took it through that area fairly spirited. I would say if I was driving to my limit, it was probably about 7/10. And I knew that there was a lot more left into it. So, I don't drive SUVs like sports cars. But I did wing it out, and I did roll it out, and I did basically give it a try. And the before and after, the 16 is very, very capable. It is very, very quick to react. It drives a lot more like a sports car than an SUV. The druthers on that is it has 18-inch rims with fairly low profile tires, and you feel every single crack in the roadway. It rides bad on city streets. You are going to get bounced around, and it is not going to be the smoothest ride. On smooth pavement, it actually drives okay. On rough pavement, it will kick your tail. In terms of actual interior accoutrements, EXL configuration. So that would be the mid-range configuration. And after doing some looking up and doing some research, there is 2 transmissions offered. There is a 6-speed and a 9-speed. The 9-speed is currently offered on the Touring, on the elite levels of trim level. We got the EXL, which is essentially the mid-range trim level. L means leather interior. Trust me, get the leather seats, okay? You basically get heated seats. Leather seats are so much nicer to be on. And doing Uber and Lyft and other associated things, leather cleans so much easier. There's a reason why buses used to use leather seats. It's because they were just easier to clean. So essentially, looking at the interior, it is the EXL level, which means you do get a moonroof. So you do have a sunroof that can open and close. The infotainment, Honda infotainment, is just not good, okay? I'm going to put it to you right there. It is just not good. But it does have an auxiliary plug, which is in the middle console. It does have 1, 2, 3 USB plugs, of which it can interact with the infotainment system. The nice thing about that one is, being a true USB setup, you can plug a adapter plug in. Just give me 1 second here. You can plug an adapter plug in, and you can plug in your iPod. And it actually does have Honda Link, and it does have the iPod mechanizations to utilize iPod. So I've plugged like 2 iPods into it already, and it interacted fine with them. It is Honda infotainment, though. It's not the best system around. It is kind of laggy. You hit a button, you wait for it to update, and then it finally updates, and it's doing whatever you asked it to do. It's not the best system. There's also the XM Sirius offered, which you got to get the subscription. And of course, there is the Aux Cord, where you basically plug in a 1/8 phono jack. So basically, the 3-connector phono jack, you plug it into that console plug, which is like inside and forward, and then you can plug it into whatever device that you have a headphone jack on. So literally, you could run your phone. You could run your iPod. It does offer Bluetooth, so it will uplink to your phone. I did try to take a phone call with it once. It sucked. I would not ever do that again. It just doesn't interact very good. It's not a very, very good infotainment system. It does give you vehicle setup, to some degree. It does give you vehicle setup. It does give you entertainment functions. I don't have navigation in this car, but then again, doing Uber and Lyft, it is comprised with the phone. You literally could just simply do Uber and Lyft, everything through your smartphone, because it pops up the maps and all the rest of that good stuff. And truthfully, you can just do all that stuff with that way. The other thing in terms of the infotainment stuff and what have you, there's all kinds of good fiddly bits on this newer thing. It does have remote start. It does have the key fob. You don't stick a key in this car. You walk up to the car with the key fob on your person, grab the door handle, the door unlocks, the driver's door. If you unlock the rest of the car, you need to hit the lock button in the car, or you need to hit the lock button on the fob. And then when it comes time to close the door and lock it, you simply close the door. There's a little black button on the door handle. You push that, the car locks. Or you just walk away from it. Mrs. Do the other day was getting ready to get out. And of course, it's hot outside, of course, being summertime. And I was like, you do know how to use the remote start function. She's like, remote start. No, how's that work? I was like, it's very easy. You take the key fob, you hit the lock switch, and then there's another switch that pretty much has like a circle with an arrow on it, and you hold that for 5 seconds, you'll hear the car start. You look outside, the right front driving light comes on and tells you the car is now currently in standby operation, and it'll run for, I think, like 5 minutes like that, and the interior temperature will try to reach an optimum of 72 degrees. Now, summertime, wintertime, what have you, it's going to struggle to try to do warm or cold, but it's going to be a whole heck of a lot better than walking out to the car and just, plopping your butt in there after you're starting it up. In terms of driving the vehicle itself, the throttle is kind of strange. It either tries to think it's like, okay, I'm going to get maximum gas mileage, or it's basically going to act like the horse that's just got stung by a bee in its ass. There is some in between. It really is not so linear. You kind of have to get a feel for it by driving it around for a while. And it is not the smoothest fly-by-wire operation throttle I've ever driven. As a matter of fact, I would say it's actually less smooth than the 2008. It is a 6-speed transmission, like I said. In terms of the operation of this one versus the previous one, it had a button on the dash. You push that, and under 18 miles per hour in either first, second, or reverse, it'll lock the rear diff. Translation, it'll lock the clutch packs up. It's not a true posi traction. On this one, you don't have that function. Essentially what you have is you have a shifter, which gives you park, reverse, neutral, drive, low, or L, and then you have a button below that gives you modes of operation. And when you push that, there's like mud, snow, sand, and I think normal driving operation. So you push it, and you'll see this little thing light up on the the center dash, reading like the instrument panel right in front of you, and it'll give you like this little box with a car showing like different ground effects of like mud, snow, dirt, what have you. And looking at the testing videos that they've done online, it does make a difference. I mean, essentially, if you drive it in normal mode, it will get you over the hill. But what it's doing is it's turning down power and using braking to try to get you to stop losing traction and get off and out of the mess. If you put that thing in mud, you turn off all that traction control and you go. All it's going to do there is basically thrust vector and all that good stuff like that there. I really haven't taken it off-road. I would tend to think with the tire choice that they put on this thing, it's not going to be the best off-roader. I tend to think the tires that I had on the previous one were a little bit better off-road than these will be. These tires are more on-road performance tires, and they do stick. This thing actually hooks a really decent turn. Very, very flat. Maybe a bit stiff I would say it's about 20% too stiff in my opinion. It needs to be a little bit more forgiving. But the reason why they do that is because basically an SUV is a tall car and they're trying to avoid having rock, where you basically have this body roll thing where you're like, oh, feels like it's going over. And they're trying to avoid that sensation by making it stiff. So the car doesn't move a lot. It simply moves vertically as opposed to laterally or obliquely, which gives you that kind of flipping sensation. So it's probably really, really, really stiff sway bars and stuff like that. In terms of the operation of the interior, the second row has more room. The third row has more room. Driver's area seems roughly about the same. That's been one of the things I've kind of really just been not the happiest about with the Honda Pilots is like, you reaching out and holding the steering wheel, you really can't stretch your legs out because that's intrusive with the wheel well being into like the pedal area. It's always been like that. It's just one of those things that they really just truly don't get you able to do. So the best thing you can do in that case is essentially just put on the cruise control and just run the seat back so you can stretch out on longer trips. In terms of gas mileage, playing around with looking at the various screens that you can click through for, the driver's infotainment or the driver's information box, you can click through and you can actually see on the fly where your gas mileage is, and that's going to be in either the A or the B odometer screens, and you can literally see what you're getting. And on the fly, you can actually see what your gas mileage will be. I've had a high of 22 miles per gallon, and driving through the city, I seem to be averaging about 18.5, and that's like driving around the city with mixed driving, with a lot of city driving. Now, to put that in perspective, the previous Pilot, 18 miles to the gallon was like the very best I could ever get out of that. I think I cracked 19 once. So for me to drive around this thing and I'm getting 10 to 15% more gas mileage, that means more money I'm keeping in my pocket versus putting out the tailpipe. Now, this one also does have the eco mode, or you look at it, it's a little button that basically has like a little green tree on it, and you push it, and what it does is it puts it into a optimization for gas mileage. The throttle response is way sluggish. The shift points are way sooner, and it intervals the AC operation. So it doesn't run the AC as hardcore. Does it really seem to get warmer inside? Maybe a little bit, but not much. It does really, really tax the performance. It gets very, very sluggish when you do that. And if you're basically doing a trip, you got to remember, too, that this car has cylinder deactivation. So what's happening is it is a V configuration. Okay, let me go like such. You have a V configuration V6. You have the front cylinders, the back cylinders, and the engine sits sideways in the engine bay. Now, on highway driving, where you want to get optimization of better gas mileage, you don't do this, the car does. It shuts off the front four cylinders and uses air cooling to keep them from overheating, and it runs only the back 3 cylinders to get maximum gas mileage. Now, as stated, they said that this car will get 27 miles per gallon and about 400 plus miles per tank full. I haven't taken a long enough trip to take advantage of that yet, and I haven't put it in econ mode long enough to really truly take advantage of that. The biggest thing I can tell you as a biggest thing I noticed, quite literally, is simply just size. It is way, way, way better to be in the third row if you're an adult in this iteration than in the first generation body style. Simply because there's just more room back there. I actually climbed into the third row, ran the seat back, and I wasn't even touching my knees onto the front seat, the seat back in front of me. So that is one of the biggest things I could tell you, literally, from previous iterations to the current iteration, is it's just got more room. And even with all 3 rows up, there is actually more space between the back of the third row seat and the back door. Oh, the last thing I can tell you that's good about the newest iteration being on an EXL setup is there's a button on the driver's door. You hit it, power tailgate. So when it comes time to load people in, load people out, and of course load their luggage and what have you, most times I don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. Like I had some people who were basically doing the big laundry day, and I knew that they were doing the big laundry day, and both my seat backs were down on the third row. So I got there, pulled up, realized and recognized that's the person I'm picking up. Hit the button, tailgate comes up, they load their stuff in, because with the COVID protocols that we have now with Uber and Lyft, they don't want us to handle their baggage. And yes, I have done an airport run or two, and mostly what seems to happen when people order an EXL in the city is they're ordering it because they are doing a S-ton, and I do mean S-hit, an S-hit ton of luggage. They basically ran out all their clothes, and they now have 14 or 15 garbage bags full of all their clean laundry they're bringing back home. So that's what I get recruited for most times, running an EXL. And, of course, running an XL-size vehicle. So that's one of those things I have noticed. And in terms of the generational upgrades between previous to current, the biggest things I could say is as a pro, it gets better gas mileage, it's got more room. As a detractor, the infotainment system sucks. You will use it, it's kind of there. I don't know if you'd want to go with an aftermarket system. I don't even know if an aftermarket system is compatible. But the infotainment system does suck. Everybody knows Honda infotainment systems are just not good. As a matter of fact, I would tell you, from case in point, the previous Honda Pilot that I had, the 2008 Honda Pilot with built-in navigation, I think actually worked better than the current one that I have now with iPod setup and all the rest of it. But that's the other thing, too. This is the first car that I have ever owned that doesn't have a cassette deck. It doesn't have a CD player. It is all digital technology. Which means if you simply just, go up to your car and you have, your flash drive full of all your favorite songs, or you have your iPod full of all your favorite stuff, that's all compatible. Or even if you hook in your smartphone. And yes, it does support Apple CarPlay, and it does support, the Android whatever equivalent. All that stuff is currently compatible. All that stuff is on board. All that technology is just ready to use if you simply do it. I do have the Honda CarLink, and it's just not a good app. It's not a good system. Most of the time, I simply just directly plug in and just run, the iPod off of it. Or if things really, really, really get south, if you got a phone with a headphone jack, your life is good. On that one, folks, I'm going to break up with this one. Eat good, keep centering as always, you know you love it. New car, old car goodness, and I got a newer car. Newer, not new, but a newer car, which is the current body style of the Honda Pilot. Not a bad car. Definitely drives good. Rides a little rough, but it's a good car. I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one, and see you then. See ya.